Welcome to Limited Time Only.
I'm Esther.
And I'm Susie.
Limited Time Only is the podcast for anyone who feels there aren't enough hours in their life.
And each week there's a different topic for you to get your ears around.
Featuring chat, comedy sketches and interviews with interesting people.
Limited Time Only is a pick-me-up in podcast form.
The special guest later in the episode is Emma Guns. This week it's time for championing.
I always wish I had a different accent.
Do you?
I don't know if other people feel like this, but well, for a start off, my accent is basically
RP.
Well, I know it's not. I know it is an accent because obviously if you're Scottish, you think I've got an accent.
Yes, yeah.
But to me, it's just absolutely boring.
Oh, really?
No, it's English voice, no accent. And I am so jealous of mainly, well, Scottish people, Irish people, and Northern people.
Yes.
I really wish I had an interesting accent. I mean, I could just put one on and maybe when I move to Hove, I can just maybe just start speaking with I'll be like, hello, I'm Susie. And then I have to keep it up the whole time. And maybe I will just end up speaking with a Scottish accent.
Oh my God. And then when I come to stay, I'll have a different accent as well. And we'll just maintain it for the whole time. That would be genius.
Yeah, but then we'll have to start doing the podcast in those accents.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello,
Susie.
Welcome. Welcome to Limited Time Only with Esther Stamford and Susie Riddell.
Desert Island Discs.
Whenever I play a character, I really like them to have a different voice. I just love it. I just like to... But I often feel like I quite like to change my identity. Or recently I had this overwhelming urge to have completely different handwriting. I was like, I just feel like I need to shake everything off and just be completely different.
Well, I'd like to have different hands.
Would you?
Yes. But today they don't look too bad. Honestly, I look down at my hands. It's like someone else has put their hand. You know when someone stands behind you and puts their arms through?
Yeah.
That's very funny. But this isn't so funny because it is actually my hands. And they look, I mean, I've said this before, but they basically look like 18th century farmhand hands. And I mean, they I don't know what, I'm clearly from, farming stock. And these hands have worked the land in times gone by, I'm sure. They are exactly the same as my mum's hands, which is also slightly freaky.
Well, why do you think they look like farmhand hands?
They just are incredibly... the fingers are very sausage-like and very wrinkly. I mean, the knuckles are like, yes, let's knuckle down and pull those potatoes up. They're round, very round. There's nothing delicate about these. I play piano. I do not have piano-playing hands. I have stumpy drum-banging hands.
Different accent, different hands. Maybe you could take tiny little... We've got tiny little plastic hands. So when you move to Hove, you can be Scottish and have tiny plastic hands.
Yes.
And just walk around and touch everything.
My friend Becky Owen, who's a fantastic singer-songwriter, everybody, check her out, has very tiny hands as well. And she takes them with her on trips and does pictures.
Oh, I thought you meant...
It's so funny.
I thought you meant she'd actually got really tiny hands. And I was like, well, of course she's going to take them with her, Sue. They're attached to her
No, she's
arms.
actually got proper, piano-playing hands.
Yes.
Nice hands. And then she's got the tiny little hands the plastic ones that you put into... It's so funny. And she does these brilliant pictures.
My kids bought them set for Ian a couple of years ago at Christmas, and they said he had to open that present first and then open all his presents with them. It was so funny.
I'm going to have to get some.
They are hilarious. Yeah, they are hilarious.
So yeah, new accent, new hands, new handwriting for you. I mean, that's quite tricky.
Well, actually, I'm back in love with my handwriting again. I just went through a few days where I was like, I feel like I need to be a completely different person. But I struggle with my hands. I've got small hands. My hands are Kylie sized because when we went to Madame Tussauds, I stuck them in Kylie's handprint and they were identical in size. But mine have often got a bit of eczema on them, so I would like them just to be smooth and lovely. And my middle fingernail is a strange shape. It's sort of it's like a moon shaped. It's sort of almost circular, my middle finger, which is weird.
You've got a circular middle finger.
That is
amazing.
Like a circular, like the nails a bit. It's like my dad's nails curl over. And I think apparently that's a sign because he's got Crohn's disease. That's actually a sign of people who have Crohn's often have that sort of, I think they call it a club finger or something.
Oh, is it really round? Mine are really round.
Well,
the
no,
top?
they're not like yours. I know what your fingers look like.
Oh, okay.
And but my middle finger's a little bit like that. But my hands are all right. But they're often quite dry. My daughter's hands are gorgeous. They're nothing like mine. They are very delicate. They are very long, and she's got lovely piano playing hands and beautiful nails. And she's got gorgeous hands. And you could tell that in my scan, actually, because my aunt said, look at the baby's hands. It's the hands of an artist or a pianist. I can't remember which.
Oh, how fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, and then mine were like, oh, look at the hands. They can...
She's going to be good at pulling up potatoes.
She'll be able to ride a horse with them. Oh, yeah. So I'm just going to speak like this from now on and have tiny plastic hands.
That sounds absolutely fabulous, Susie. You do that.
Thank you very much.
Suze, can we start the meeting now? We've been sat here for 20 minutes.
Sorry, I can't decide which of my Bright Disposition notebooks to use. Do I want to dream big and go for my dreamy navy blue notebook? Or do I want to shine bright with a notebook in luscious bright pink, LTO colours?
They're beautiful, but why have you got 5?
They all made me so happy I had to buy the full range. Plus, I'm down with the company ethos. Bright Disposition is a small family business and each notebook has been designed with love.
Let me have a look.
Here you go.
Oh, a hard-wearing cover. Gorgeous colours. A lovely band to keep them shut.
Yeah.
A ribbon to keep your place.
And top quality paper that my pen glides over and doesn't seep through. I think I'm in love. OK, I'm feeling sunny, so I'm going for the sky blue. We can start the meeting now, Esther. Esther.
Oh, sorry. I'm just on Etsy ordering stationery from Bright Disposition. There's an LTO discount code for 10% off. I'll be with you in a mo.
No rush. I'm stroking my notebooks.
Bright Disposition, uplifting gifts to encourage and inspire you. Available from Etsy. And for LTO listeners, there's 10% off. Just use the code LTO10 at checkout. If Susie and Esther haven't bought them all already. Mum, there's another big box from Bright Disposition here.
We are talking about championing today. Very exciting. And I did look it up. I did a Susie. And I looked up what the Cambridge Dictionary says about...
Stolen my thunder.
I've stolen your... Have you done the same?
I did the same, obviously. No, go for it.
Well, it is to support, defend or fight for a person, belief, right or principle enthusiastically, which I really like.
Yeah, it's quite exciting.
It is. I mean, when we first discussed talking about championing as a topic, I kind of just viewed it from the support element, but actually the defending and fighting for things that you really believe in very much appeals to my nature.
I think you'd have been, I don't know, in the Crusades.
Do you know what? I think I would. What were we watching the other day? Oh, The Gentleman. I say we were watching it. I sort of dozed on and off and woke up at various points. And there was a bit where they were all defending the house. And some people went downstairs who didn't want to fight and defend it. And the rest were upstairs fighting and defending the house. And I said to my family, I know I'd be upstairs, actually. If it was worth fighting for, I know I'd be up there on the front line going, come on!
Come on!
Which sort of surprised me because I always think I can be a bit of a wuss, but actually, no, I think if there's a cause I really believe in, oh my God, I'm quite galvanised.
My little son, Henry, is also galvanised. He's here.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Esther. Go and play Mary and then I'll get you dressed.
Yeah?
All right. Love you.
Bye, love you.
Love you. Bye. Sorry, was completely distracted.
Oh, bless him.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day because I was thinking about the idea of fighting for a cause, and I was remembering my time on the picket line.
Oh, wow.
I went on strike when I was a tour guide at the BBC.
Really?
The BBC currently pay my wages.
Shh,
we
no
were.
one will know.
Nobody knows except the 300 people who are listening to this. 3 million people, I mean.
3 million.
What am I talking about? I was a tour guide at the BBC, which was great fun, great job, made lifelong friends, learned a lot about the BBC, which I've subsequently forgotten. Because why do I need to know that now?
Exactly.
I don't need to know about that statue. I don't even, what? But it was a great job. But there was this, we moved from Television Centre to Broadcasting House. And it wasn't as good because obviously Television Centre is,
Epic.
where epic is epic. Doctor Who and I don't know, I Claudius and loads of things were made there in the past, and obviously
Generation Game.
Bruce's
Generation Game.
Blue Peter. I used to take people to the Blue Peter Garden when it was still there.
Big Break.
Big Break. I don't know about that. Was it there?
I don't know. I'm just being.
I never mentioned Big Break, but we moved to Broadcasting House, and then basically they wanted to cut our wages and cut us down to 0 hours contract and blah 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 blah, and we weren't happy, so we went on strike, and it was so. I mean, it was serious, but it was so fun.
Was it?
It was so, and it was freezing. It was like snowing that week, and we were out there in the snow with our placards and talking to, people high up in BBC News, and we basically collared anyone who was coming into the building. Broadcasting House is the main BBC building, so it's where the BBC News comes from, and all the radio programmes, and yeah, it's a big deal. The One Show, we're like outside the One Show window.
Was that when Chris Evans was still there?
No, I can't remember who did it then. This was about 10 years ago.
Yes,
just over 10
Matt
years
Baker.
ago. My cat's now crying to get in. That's what happens on a bank holiday.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think he's meowing at himself in the mirror.
He's like, you a hot cat.
But it was a cause, and we were passionate about it because we didn't want to get shafted, and I really, really enjoyed it, and the solidarity of being with my comrades, my fellow tour guides who were all, fighting for the same thing, and it did work. We did get a pay increase, and then they cancelled tours about a year later.
We'll increase their wages, and then we'll get rid of the jobs.
We'll just get rid of it completely. We were championing, I suppose, ourselves and justice for us. It's such a minor thing, but I think when people go on strike now, I do have great sympathy because you only do that if you're really, we didn't work for a week and we weren't getting paid, and that was all we were earning. So you only do that if you really, really care, and it's
I
important.
agree. Yeah, I agree. And I actually read the other day that I believe it's Japan, that when they strike, so if a bus driver is striking, they still drive the buses, but they just don't take any money, so that everybody can still get where they need to go, but the corporations aren't earning anything. And I thought that's so interesting. That's such an interesting.
But that is interesting, but it doesn't quite work when. Hang on, it would work in that instance, but it doesn't work for the NHS.
No, not at all.
Or if you're. Yes, it only works if you've got paying customers paying you in cash at that the very point of contact with them, because it wouldn't work for the tour guides because the money gets paid on the website. But that's a really that's a really, I don't know, caring way.
It's a really caring way
considerate,
to
isn't it?
To the man.
The consideration of the Japanese is definitely highlighted there.
Yeah, definitely
for others, but it wouldn't work for most things, I don't think.
I think it's the idea of you all coming together to fight for something. I have never been on a picket line, actually, which I'm quite surprised about. And I feel like I'm getting more feisty as I get older. But my parents my dad was a trade union rep. Then he was a civil servant, and he was a trade union rep. And then he was part of local politics and was a councillor, and then head of the council, and he was the mayor. And so I'm raised by a man who is very political, and my grandfather was very political. And it was really interesting because my dad's very left. My dad describes himself as a democratic socialist, and my grandfather was the same. And yet they both they were privately educated, and then my grandfather's wife was very conservative, and my aunt's very conservative, my dad's sister, which is really interesting to be in a family where there's that dynamic where you've got left and right. Yeah. But my mum was quite a fighter for things she believed in as well, and actually my mum's sisters were, and I'm not somebody that finds it very easy to roll over. I'm more of I'm also 12 because I've got a very childish sense of humour, and I'm getting more sort of feisty. And if I really believe, and I don't agree with the fact that they might take away our right to protest and stuff like that, because
that's just
because the suffragettes and we've got to have our voices anyway. Before we go down too political a route,
it's undemocratic. It's dictatorship, isn't it? If you can't protest, but we were.
Tell me who you feel like you've been really championed by in your life, because obviously it's not just fighting for things; it's somebody who is, supporting you enthusiastically. So who are the people in your life you feel like you've had that from?
Yes, definitely. I wrote a little list, and I want to first of all mention, people who listen to this podcast for a start and who've shared it.
Yeah,
I feel like they're sort of championing the podcast and championing us, and especially our patrons.
Yes.
Which is just incredible. They are actual champs. I would say you're a wonderful champion. And supporter and very enthusiastic. So you fit the whole bill there. And I would say my mum. Actually, my parents, all of them really. But I think, my mum. And I don't think that happens for everybody.
No.
And I was just thinking back to our conversation with Jessie Quinn from the last episode, and his dad and his mum, but he spoke about his dad particularly being so complete, having such utter confidence in him, and supporting him and encouraging him, and he seemed like he was a real champion.
Yes.
And just instilled that wonderful confidence in his ability in Jessie, which has led on to him being a professional musician. I think that's fantastic.
It is so important, isn't it? I think because most of us spend our lives trying to make our parents proud. There's still in all of us as a small child going, I hope my mummy and daddy will be proud of me. And I also was just going to say, you said all of your parents, and you've got more than two, haven't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I've got my mum and my dad, and I've got my stepmum Sue as well. So I know it's a bit weird, isn't it? But yeah, I have three parents.
Thank you for joining this direct service. This train will not be stopping. Once you're on, you can't get off, unfortunately, but we will be making the journey as pleasant as possible. Coach C is open now, where you can get chats and hugs when needed. Always remember, you are not alone. Thank you.
Do you know what? Sometimes this is quite sad, but I think when my parents have gone, which they will one day, and, God willing, it'll be a long time yet.
Yes.
But I sometimes think, well, what will I be doing anything for?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You'll be doing it to make you proud and your kids proud.
I feel quite sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a ridiculous. I mean, it's kind of telling, isn't it? It's like, I'm an actor because I want to show off, and I just want my parents to tap me on the head and say, well done, Susie, you're brilliant. Which doesn't happen, all the time, obviously.
Because you'd be an arse. You'd be a right
because
arsehole.
I do it for multiple reasons, but they're the people you want to be most proud of you.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, because I'm not everybody. I'm everyone. It's all in me. I'm egotistical right now. No.
Now please praise me. Oh, I'm amazing.
I'm amazing. Oh, God. Right, let's move on from parents.
But I agree, and actually, I do think that it's true, because I remember I had a couple of plays on at the Birmingham Rep, and I'd written them from my drama group, and oh my God, I put so much work into them because I wanted plays that were for the actual cast, and I got 2 casts of 27 kids, and They were really good plays. They were really, really good, and I was exhausted by the end of it, and I remember coming off stage, and the response was incredible, and a lot of my family came to see me, which is championing, isn't it?
Yes.
And friends, and my dad, oh bless him, I'm going to get emotional now. He looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he just went, "You're wasted doing this. You're so good." And that just, it was quite a moment, because to see that pride in your parents' face that is definitely what you crave as a child, isn't it? It's what you were always looking for. And, you know, we're both 46 now and you still want it. You still want your parents to go, oh, I'm ever so proud of you. It's funny. It's obviously sort of like a nature thing, I think. It's that we still want to be.
Yes, the tiny child still inside.
And it makes me think of one of the six. But that. Oh, sorry, Suze. Go on. What were you going to say?
I'm crying. Well, it's just that it's the small child that exists in all of us, and
yes,
and it kind of reminds me of something you said when you have a picture of you've got a picture of yourself as a small girl on your desk.
Phone.
On your phone, and it reminds me of that, and it's like it's actually remembering for ourselves that we are still that small.
Absolutely. And actually I took it off the screensaver on my phone, but I've got a photograph. In fact, I'll find it. I found it the other day because I've moved into my new office, which is very exciting. And I'm going to put it on my office, in my office. And I'm about 10 years old. I'm dressed in a very inappropriate sexy nightie over my dress, which is like red and lacy and was my mum's, and maybe I'm a bit younger actually because my parents are split up by then, and I've got a big sun hat on and some pearls and I'm clearly acting.
Oh, I know the picture.
And I'm going to put that back in there, and it's just reminding that there is a little child in all of us that just wants somebody to go, well done.
Well,
really
yes,
proud of you.
And actually, you know, it's great getting that from your parents, but it's also great getting that from your colleagues and your friends, and really good bosses.
Yes.
And I was and teachers as well, and I think that's one of the reasons you're a great teacher, because you are a champion of all the young people that you've ever taught. I'm just thinking about my.
One second, Ella. I'm just recording, so I'll be out in a bit. Not long.
No time for them.
No time for families today. All these people that want us.
After all that,
yeah.
No, like my radio teacher from drama school is such a champion, still a champion of mine, Marilyn LeConte, and she really gave me such confidence to go for what is now my kind of, I don't know, main body of my career, and I wouldn't be doing this podcast without her. Because she saw something in me that I'd kind of either forgotten about or didn't believe was there, and really, really encouraged me. And she said, you will succeed. You will have a career in radio. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I have. And yeah. And so I really will thank her for that every day.
And actually that, is this the right word? Well, my brain's not functioning very well. Assuredness? Is that what I want to say?
Assuredness.
That is somebody being that assured in you and telling you that. It's that confidence and that certainty of that sentence that makes you go, oh, this can actually happen. Not you're really good and you could. It's no, you will.
You will. Yes. And we should. We should, and it's so difficult, isn't it? Our choice of words is so, and words are so important. And we remember them, don't we? And when we are criticised, that's what we remember. So when you've got somebody saying you will be a success, or even like someone who wants to work with you, like you want to work with me. I do most of the time. and vice versa. And Anna Harpin, who I do Idiot Child with. And I'm like, God, she wants to work with me. She sees something in me that, I don't know. She sees something in me. That's as simple as that. And I'm so grateful for that. And I hope that I do the same for her, and that partnership. But it's just like us. But when you find somebody like, when you find a friend that you can work with and champion, that's so special. And I think people who set up businesses with family members or friends, I just think it's fantastic. I always love that when I see a story. And actually, we were talking just before we came on air about the guys from Keene. And they were at school together and they'd known each other since they were like 11. And how lovely is that? To have gone through your whole creative journey together and know each other so well. Yeah,
but I think that about friends in general as well. So you and I have known each other since we were 11, but then we didn't see each other for a chunk of time. But there's that sort of foundation that's there, and that's what's so lovely is we have these conversations, and I understand who you are. We have a lot of shared youth together, but then there's this chapter where we didn't see each other. But there's this sort of sisterhood there because because it just is, because of the experiences we went through together.
Yeah.
And there's an understanding because we came from a very similar background and we had the same experiences. And then I've got my girlfriends who I went to school with, who I met when I was 13. And then we're all such different people, but there's that you change so much through your life, and yet you all still stick together, and that is so special, isn't it?
Yes, it's that.
And you champion each other.
Base understanding of each other somehow.
And the bond gets stronger because you've weathered all these things.
Yeah, and you have. I think it's because you have a real care about that tiny child. Because when you've known somebody from when they were a tiny child, and I'm talking as in, I think tiny is going back to kind of, I don't know, 17, 18, even university. I think you're actually still. Your brain is still developing until you're 24, right? So when I'm saying child, I'm talking about up till then. So people you've known that early part of your life have an awareness of you as a young person who hasn't fully formed, and have a care about that person. So when I meet my friend who I've known since I was 4, I mean, I've known you since we were 11, and I still can see you as that little girl.
Yes,
and
me too, you.
Yeah, the girls I've known since I was 4 from school. We don't speak to each other all the time. We don't see each other all the time, but when we do, we're back at school almost.
Yeah.
And so I think it is. I think
the longevity really.
And if you can't champion those people, then
And I feel like I'm more protective over the people I've known a very long time now, because they really are sort of my foundation. So my husband and I have been married 20 years this month, and which is staggering and also the problem is because we got together at 18, I do still think we're that age and we're still friends with a lot of the same people. So I don't really understand the passing of time. I'm like, what? But it's all still the same people. But we have grown and changed so much in that time, and there's been times where we can't stand the sight of each other for 6 months, and then and then you come back to it again, and actually weathering those storms, I feel like you just constantly get closer because you've weathered all this stuff and you've changed and you've melded together. And so actually we're probably tighter now than we've ever been because we've been together for such a long time that we support each other and champion each other wholeheartedly. And also it's a thing of, like, if I want to do something, he never says, no, you can't do it. He's like, let's see how we can make that happen, and vice versa. And I'm the one going, go out with your mates, go and do stuff.
Yes.
And go and have a life outside me, because it's also that sort of, because you want the best for them.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of championing as well, which I think.
Yeah, it is. And we champion our kids, and for that reason, isn't it? And that it is. I suppose there is a sort of certain level of self-sacrifice to some of it, some of championing, but it's also just. I suppose it's about putting. Sometimes it's just about putting yourself aside to go. This person is fantastic. I think people who are particularly jealous perhaps might not make good champions.
Yes. Yeah.
I think you've got to kind of, it's not about you being a champion.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And actually, I heard Reese Witherspoon say jealousy is just a compass telling you that that's something that you would like in your life. And I thought, oh yeah, that's really true, because I have been. Oh my God, I've been so jealous. And even now, I'll be like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then
Why
I go,
am I not doing that?
why am I not fair? Why she gets to do that? And I still have those feelings, but I'm very aware that they're sort of a separate part of me. Like, it's almost like a Russian doll in me that's probably about 5, and I go, oh, little Esther's up. Oh, and then I just go, it's all right. And then I make sure I'm really lovely about it, because and I sort of think, right, that's just a part of me that would kind of like that. Is that practical? Do I really want that? No, I probably don't. Or yes, I really do. Well, then let's try and make it happen.
Yeah.
And fighting for things, I remember, I definitely champion my kids and fight for my kids. And my daughter has dyslexia, and I really fought for her. In fact, I remember spoken about this before, that she'd written on the calendar about pub, but she'd written DUP, and all that kind of stuff. And then I really fought the school to get a diagnosis, and they kept saying, "Oh, she just can't spell," and stuff like that. And then we went in, and then we went to see the head. I insisted on a meeting on there with the head.
Yeah.
And I'd really been fighting. And then we walked into the room, and there was the Senko there and the head. And the head said, now my daughter's called Ella. And the first thing she said to me was, "Ellie is so lovely." And I went, God. "It's Ella." And I was properly like a mama bear.
That's ridiculous.
I was sat there like, "You bastards, you are doing nothing to help my daughter.
And you don't even know her.
And you don't even know her." And then the head did this thing where she started backtracking, going, it's because my niece is called Ellie, and she looks just like Ella. And actually, I was at a barbecue the other day, and I called my niece Ella. And I thought, oh my God, do not give me a politician's answer. Just say, "I'm sorry, I said the wrong name."
Yeah.
But it made me fight even harder, and we did get her diagnosis and everything. But it's but you do for your kids, don't you? You've got to. I will not have anybody trample on my kids. Or
No.
Rawr, rawr, mother bear.
Don't touch my child. No, it's good. But yeah, there's multiple ways to champion people. And also, we are the champions.
My friend. Yeah, and also it's not always easy to champion yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure we've probably all got that horrible voice inside our head that tells us that we're no good at times. So all these little things that people have said to us that stick out in our mind, or that, like the assuredness of your teacher, you will have a great radio career. You will have a career in radio. That sticks with you and gives you the confidence.
Maybe I need to fashion a little kind of sports kind of trainer in my head. So I'm imagining a tiny little man with it's like 70s hairstyle, big moustache, sweatband, vest, bit like the guys from that advert with two guys. And he's like, yeah, go Susie, yeah, you're a champ. So that's going to be in my head now.
Let's all do that. Let's all have a little
mustachioed gentleman
man in your head,
or lady.
Yeah, mustachioed lady in your head.
Can we have a moustache or not? It doesn't matter. To champ you along.
I'm going to picture Miriam Margolyes with a moustache.
Great. I think she'd like that. And a sweatband.
I think she'd like that. Yeah.
Go, Esther. You're a champion.
Quieten down, please, ladies. Thank you for coming to the inaugural Champ Camp, where we'll spend the day networking, harvesting peer support, and championing each other. My name is Patricia Bitter, OBE. I jest. I've not been awarded that honour yet. Bet none of you lot have either.
Oh, I have. But I don't like to talk about it, really.
Oh, that's good. We don't like to hear about it.
Oh.
Right, who'll start us off? Me! I'm an entrepreneur with 5 business cards. Self-made millionaire. Shortbread is available over there. Bought it from Waitrose. Ooh, posh. And I speak regularly in front of the mirror, so I'm wonderful and fully qualified to drive. Who's next? Sharon? OBE?
Yes, hello, I'm Sharon Pipette, OBE.
Yes, we know. Snore.
I've founded several charities which support young people both here and abroad.
Charities? Not made any money yourself, then?
And I patented my range of household items for elderly people with mobility issues, which was invested in by all the dragons on Dragon's Den. I've just sold the company for $4 billion.
Sell out.
I now split my time between Liverpool, the south of France, and Antigua, where I have houses and boyfriends.
Well, I've got a blog.
Oh, I forgot to mention my Sunday Times bestseller, a novel based on my life, which is currently being turned into a Hollywood film starring Carey Mulligan and Ryan Gosling.
Who even are they?
And I'd like to mention my podcast, which I'm co-hosting with Claudia Winkleman.
Well, you can't. Unmention it, please.
Our first guest is Dolly Parton.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. Not listening. No one cares.
But I thought this was Champ Camp. That we were here to celebrate each other's achievements.
Only achievements that aren't as good as mine.
What?
You're just making everyone feel terrible.
I think she's an inspiration.
An abomination, more like. No one should be that talented and successful. Just get out. All of you. You'll never amount to anything.
I'll just grab me BAFTA award. We're going. I've got to do a TED Talk at 12 anyway.
Oh, before you go, I must get a picky for my Insta. #ChampCamp. Say cheese.
Cheese.
Now sod off. I'll tag you on the socials.
Dandelions by Holly McNish. When it all seems too much and I wonder why we're here, and I think about the sun and I wonder why it's there, and my daughter points to space and the emptiness upsets me, and I lament my lack of God and I wish that one would find me, and I worry what is out there and I wonder what the point is, and I panic about death and I panic it's all pointless, and I wonder when space stops and what the fuck we're on this rock for. I think of strawberries in the summer, firmed and ripe and juicy, and how perfectly dandelion seeds are made to helicopter breezes, procreating across fields. And I remind myself, this is not all about you, Holly.
I don't have kids, for example. I'm not married. So I don't have any of those sorts of structures in place that sort of create a rhythm to my life. My life is jazz.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God, you should have that on a t-shirt, Emma.
Today's guest is journalist, beauty editor and host of her own wildly successful podcast, The Emma Gunn Show, Emma GUNAVARDHANA. Starting out as a journalist in local newspapers, a serendipitous moment led Emma to a temping job at OK magazine. Emma was quickly promoted and became OK's beauty editor. She has been a beauty editor for over 20 years and has interviewed some of the most famous people on the planet, including Christina Aguilera, Brittany Spears, and Sarah Jessica Parker. In 2016, she launched her own podcast, The Emma Gunn Show, featuring interviews with celebrities, brand creators, and authors. Her podcast has more than 15 million global downloads, over 1,000 five-star reviews, and is one of the UK's top podcasts. We talked to Emma about her highs and lows at OK magazine, how she came to start her own podcast, and the identity of her favourite guest at Elton John's white tie and tiara ball. Welcome to the show, Emma Gunn.
You've done so much. Your career is so vast. You started out as a journalist. Was that something you always knew you wanted to do from a young age?
Yes. But I had no good reason to believe that I could do it. But I think I'm one of the, I'm 46 now. So I'm at that age where when I was growing up, the heroines in a lot of television shows and films were in journalism or marketing. And it just looked very glamorous and they wore nice clothes and they were really beautiful. And I was like, well, if I do that, then I'll get to wear nice clothes and be really beautiful. So I just, it wasn't because I wanted to champion anyone's voice or anything, not even my own. But I just thought it looked like an interesting place to be. And somehow, by hook or by crook, got there.
We're all the same age, actually. I'm 46 in May, but by the time this goes out, I'll be
She's
46.
Because she's a couple of
Still
months younger than me. I'm 46 now.
But I know exactly what you mean. That sort of world, and also Working Girl. It was all that. I know that's going back to the 80s.
Press Gang, Nadia Sawalha,
yeah,
Lois Lane.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So was it beauty that you instantly wanted to go into?
So actually, I think the beauty thing and the sort of want to sort of get into journalism, which again, I wanted to do it, but I didn't know necessarily why. But the beauty thing was because I, as a teenager, had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that meant that, and I had it severely in terms of the symptoms were quite pronounced. So that was weight gain, facial hair, body hair, hair loss, acne, and sweating.
So goodness. That's not a great combo for a teenager, is it? Or anybody?
I did not blossom as a teenager. And back in the day, you wouldn't go, I mean, you had your monthly magazines. And so I would choose one because monthly magazines, when you're a child, are very expensive. They're extortionate now. But I go to the library and look at herbal remedies or natural remedies and for acne and all of these things. And I became really interested in that. And I think it was just that, again, I looked at the pages of magazines, particularly the beauty editors, and I thought, you've got my answers. And they would say something every month. And I'd think, oh, that's really helpful. Or, oh, that's really interesting. But it was that thing where you'd then pass on that information at school and someone would be like, ooh, ooh, and you get the sort of the high of having shared something that people responded to. So they sort of bonded, they sort of merged at one point. The streams crossed, and yes, I never look back, I guess.
It's quite interesting, isn't it, how when you have some form of adversity, that pulls you into finding the answers and then solving the problems for other people. And that happens, I think that happens so often. And how Susie and I were talking about this earlier, about how sometimes you can think something's awful, but then actually out of it comes a new direction in your life or whatever. So where was your first job?
So my first journalism job was, let's think about this. Because I got waylaid, so I wasn't bright enough at school to go to university and get the degree that everyone said you need a degree in English from Reading. And I was like, well, no chance. So I kind of put it on a back burner, left school, got into university by the skin of my teeth, and went into a sales job, as many, many people do when they leave university, and just thought, I think I must have been doing it about 18 months, and I hated it, and I wasn't a very nice version of myself when I was there. And I thought, I'm going to be miserable unless I try to do something that I love. My life is just going to sort of happen, and I'm going to have not steered it. And I just threw in the towel one day and went, no, I'm going to go and become a journalist. And I just did local work experience at local newspapers. I've moved back in with my parents and just went and did work experience for nothing. I'd saved up a bit of money, so I was able to do that. And then my brother very kindly gave me the money to do a postgrad course at what was it? The not Brighton University. It was a college. Anyway, it was a postgrad in journalism. Unfortunately, not worth the money. It was pretty poor. But I got a qualification at the end of it and started doing work experience. So I'd done work experience on local papers like the Seven Oaks Chronicle, and then weirdly, this is a sort of long-winded story. To cut a very long story short, the sales job where I had worked previously had office space in a building that was owned by the people who owned OK Magazine, and OK Magazine had its office there. So I felt the tingle every morning going up in the lift past their floor, like, oh, OK Magazine's right there. And so I knew the girls on reception, and they knew that I wanted to get into beauty, and they knew I wanted to get into journalism. And they said, do you want me to? And basically it was like, should we give you the editor's email? I was like, yes, please. And so I had done the work experience before I then went off and did all my stuff on local newspapers. And at the end of my postgrad, you had to do a 2-week work experience. And I said, oh, can I come back? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I went back for 2 weeks, and I went back for another 2 weeks. They asked me back for another 2 weeks, and then I went back for another 2 weeks. And then I was there and I was doing work experience, like admin, but then the editor's PA was off. And that particular week, the beauty editor resigned. And they were like, we know that you want it. We also know that you're cheap. so
Wow.
so it was a real, I was very, very lucky.
Total serendipity.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And that's quite a swift to become beauty editor.
Yes.
Was there any jealousy amongst the team?
Yes. So I was aware that there were people on the team who were not happy about my appointment, and I tried as much as possible to put that to the back of my mind. But sort of I have been out of that job now for 12 years. I did it for nearly 10. And I can realize now with age and therapy that it was... The thing is, I'm the sort of person who I do like a challenge, and I did rise to the challenge, obviously. But when I look at it, I think, God, that was a bit too much. That was a bit too much too soon. Because I didn't ever... It just felt like a lot of turbulence. It felt like a plane taking off on a lot of turbulence, and then it took a long time to get to cruising altitude. And then I still felt like I had to keep my seatbelt on, because it just always felt quite insecure. I think when you get a job and right at the beginning you perhaps think that you don't deserve it, that never leaves you. Even if people say you're really good at this job, or you get pay rises, or any of those things that happen that validate you. I think if you've started off at that place, you're always sort of wondering, kind of got it easily, I could probably lose it easily.
I was just going to say about imposter syndrome. And I think that's something that, I mean, you hear people like, I don't know, Sir Patrick Stewart talking about, he talks about, never going to get another job after he's finished. I'm like, you're Patrick Stewart. But that idea of being an imposter, is that something that's still with you, or have you got rid of that now?
I don't think it has left. And I just have realized I just think I'm one of those people. And I look at other people and I think, I mean, you must have seen people who walk around and seem to navigate the world as though they are absolutely entitled to their position. And I really admire it. And I think, I wonder what that feels like when you go to sleep at night and you think, yes, I am this person and no one is coming for me. I will always have a sense of insecurity. And I think that's just who I am. I don't think you could reassure me enough for me to feel confident. And also, I think in life, there is no reassurance, is there? So I think it's a false thing. Maybe all these people who walk around and I look at them and I think, God, you swine. I'm so jealous of how confident you appear. Maybe there's stuff rattling under the surface as well. But I mean,
I think people do.
I think I will.
Confident sometimes, and they're not. And you it's hard to believe that they go home and go, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
Did that start for you when you were young? Did you feel like it through your younger years?
To be honest, it's funnily enough, weirdly, because the last few weeks have been bizarre, but there was a school reunion and it was 28 years.
Horrifying, isn't it?
I know. It's weird getting to this age, isn't it? Because you feel like I still feel like I'm really about 18 and then I'm sort of permanently in a state of shock at everybody's age and how long things have been.
Well, funnily, every single person communicated at some point how they still feel like they're 18. In the same breath that they talked about what HRT patch they were, which made me absolutely howl. But it was an interesting. To be honest, I was in two minds about whether to go, and I thought, well, and I could kind of bargained with myself. I tell you what, I'll walk to the venue. I'll walk to where we're all having lunch, and if I get to the door and my gut tells me run, just turn around and walk away because I don't know what I was expecting, but I think it made me realize that I'd never had that sort of place, that security, that group of friends, or that sort of thing I never really got a sense of who I was. But I think maybe because I was expecting that to come from the people around me, which made me realize that I probably put a lot of pressure on my school friends to make me feel a certain way. And instead of I mean, if you've had any therapy, you know that call has to come from inside the building.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think it has always been there. I think I always was looking to belong somewhere. But, oh God, this sounds so terrible. But I always thought I was trying to find somewhere where I belonged, but I belong here. And I kind of think I have made sense of that. But I'm still a bit of an insecure ninny. I'm still a nervous ninny who will always walk into a room and think, is my skirt tucked into my pants?
But at least you're walking into the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And actually, you just said something really interesting that really resonated with me, which is about imposter syndrome and not quite being sure where you belong, and that's where or who you are, and that's where the imposter syndrome comes from. That definitely struck a chord with me. I've had tons of therapy. Oh my God, years of it. I love it. I do it. I do it all of the time if I could. I just have bouts of it. But with your job, when was the point when the plane just flew and you thought, I've found where I am now? Do you remember a point when that came at OK?
I don't think I ever actually got that feeling at OK. Because it always felt like the brakes were being put on from somewhere. And a lot of it was me, like I was self-sabotaging. It sounds so daft, but if you have been the girl at school who perhaps hasn't blossomed and is insecure, which isn't a nice thing to be around, and then you suddenly get this job and people are being very, very nice to you and you can't figure out why. And obviously it's because of your job, but you can't figure out why they're being really, really nice to you. And they're saying, hey, why don't we, oh, you like that lipstick that we've just launched? Oh my God, we'll send it to you. Your mum likes it. We'll send it to her too. You're like, I think that I found that very, very confusing. I didn't quite, and it sounds daft. I'm sure someone listening to this would go, oh my God, you just take it. But I questioned people's motives a lot because it was a definite shift in how I had been treated prior to how I was treated when I had status. And it was a big shift. And I found it clunky and it made me suspicious and it made me quite prickly.
Well, it's quite hard, isn't it, when you know that a relationship or a make towards friendship perhaps isn't genuine, isn't for the friendship or the relationship's sake, it's to get somewhere or get something.
It's that feeling of inauthenticity, isn't it? It's the fact that you just can't trust anybody's motives. And I would feel exactly the same as you. I would feel exactly the same as you, like, oh, hang on. Oh, do you mean this? Or are you just, after a bit of promotion and stuff like that?
And I see people I see people enjoying that, whether it's my industry or others. And they obviously are just like, well, I won't think too hard about it. And I just thought I overthought it. So I overthunk it, as I like to say.
We've got quite a few friends who are celebrities, not even inverted commas, they're just celebrities, and I see sometimes how they're approached, and I just always make it, we've known them all our lives, but I just make it my point never to ask them for anything, because I want them to know that it's genuine, that my friendship with them is always genuine, and it's because I would feel exactly the same as you.
Ask them to come on the podcast though, Esther. Does that count?
Well, some of them have been on. Yeah, we've got another one coming on soon. But yeah, well, that's all right. That's just a chat with your mate. It's all right.
But with all of that said, I have made like lifelong friends through the industry, so it's not that I don't want to present it as being very black and white. It was there's obviously shades of grey in there, and I've made lovely friends and had some of the laughed my socks off with people, even if it has been transactional.
Yeah. Well, actually, tell us about some of your highs at OK. What was some of your most amazing experiences there?
I think probably the most amazing thing genuinely was, so I started on the 31st of March 2003, Ewan McGregor's birthday. And
oh, Esther, I think you've met a soulmate here. Someone who knows people's birthdays.
Yeah.
And a few weeks later, it was Elton John's white tie and tiara party. And I don't know if you remember, it's one of those things that was such a huge event in the spring, summer. And now it doesn't happen and it's been quickly forgotten. But at the time, it was a little bit like going to Studio 54 or something. Like getting a ticket to the Elton John white tie and tiara party was ridiculous. It was just European royalty, the biggest stars in the world. And I was asked if literally my deputy editor said, look, we need someone to come and stand on the door tomorrow night and take everyone's names. Now, this was when you had to write them down in a notepad, 2003.
With a quill.
So quite literally. So I was like, sure. And I'm talking about being in the job 6 weeks, 6, 7, 8 weeks, something like that. And so I was like, okay, fine. This is so exciting. They must really think I'm good. And then I realized, and probably like 3 years later, I realized it was because if you got someone's name wrong in the magazine, if there was a spelling mistake, that person would be fired. So it was like last in, first out. It was just like, who's the expendable one? But no names were spelled incorrectly, so thank goodness. But I got there and I didn't have anything to wear. I don't know what my life before OK magazine was, not going to rich people's homes for parties. And so I didn't have anything to wear. So I went to, I think it was Oasis at lunchtime, and I got off the sale rail a black dress, knee-length dress. So not appropriate for a black tie, white tie event at all, with a big keyhole here. And it was before my breast reduction, so I had to wear a bra. So the bra was just showing through. I mean, I looked so... I look as though I'm on a night out in sort of a very sort of yokel town. Sort of, I just look like I just don't know and I didn't know what I was doing. And I think I just all I did was brush my hair and put on a bit of makeup. I look very sweaty in any picture from me that evening. But I got there and I stood there, and the photographer, who was brilliant, was like, right, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is how you speak to people. And it was just, it started as sort of a little trickle, and then all of a sudden it was like Hugh Grant, Elizabeth Hurley, Elle Macpherson, Simon Cowell, Barry Manilow, just all of these people. And I had to say, good evening, Mr. Cowell. So nice for you. So nice to see you this evening. May I ask you to have a picture against the step and repeat? And, hello, Mr. Manilow. It's such a pleasure to see you this evening. Welcome to the Elton John white tie and tiara party. Would you mind having a picture on the step and repeat to every single person?
So what happens if you didn't know who they were?
Oh, well, I got that wrong because I asked Rick Owens who he was. I asked this lady, I was like, who are you wearing? She said, Rick Owens. And I said, and what's your name? He was like, Rick Owens. So I screwed up.
Why is she wearing yours, Rick? What are you wearing?
I think it was Rick Owens. Anyway, I like that. But yes, it did happen a couple of times. But it was the one person who really stood out to me as being very nice, because obviously I was trying to be very polite to everybody and make it as easy as possible. And I asked Brian May, my God, I can't even believe I'm saying these words. I asked Brian May and Anita Dobson I was like, good evening, welcome to the Elton John's white tie and tiara party. I'm from OK Magazine. would you be kind enough to have a picture against the step and repeat? And they had a picture and they were about to walk off. And then Anita Dobson came back and just touched me on the shoulder and said, "You asked us so nicely." And I was like, well, I now love you forever, Anita Dobson.
Yes.
Whatever you need, whatever you want, I'll do your shopping for you whenever. Just like ask me, text me.
Oh, isn't
That's
nice?
so cool. And I bet, did you wake up the next day thinking, did that actually happen? Because meeting all of those people, it's like such a surreal lineup, isn't it? Thank you, Mr. Banlow. If you'd like to do stand on the step, Mr. Cowell.
But when you sort of get drunk and your memory's a bit thin. It's like that. It's so surreal that your brain actually almost can't hold on to it and capture it. It's the weirdest thing. It's so weird. But it was so much fun. And like, I went into the party and I had interviewed Simon Cowell a few weeks before over the phone, I hasten to add. And I went up and said, "Oh, hi, Simon. We spoke on the phone the other day." And he pulled me in for a picture. I mean, one of the most charming people I've ever met in my entire life, I have to say. Just utterly, utterly lovely. And then they brought out bacon sandwiches about 2:00, and I was like, "Well, this is fantastic. I love how rich people roll."
Elton's got it. Yeah, he's got it right, isn't he?
He's got it going on.
Brilliant. Oh my god!
And who are some of the best people that you've interviewed?
The standout for me in terms of the absolute sort of professional, someone who was incredibly professional, so had boundaries, but was so warm and fun. My God, Bette Midler.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I was her last interview of the day, and it was one of those hotel suites where they're in the sitting room and you're sort of waiting in the anteroom, which is like another sitting room. And I could hear the conversation, I could hear the interview, and they were talking quite a lot about Amy Winehouse because it was around the time of Amy's death. And obviously Bette Midler had played Janis Joplin in the movie The Rose, and so they were drawing a lot of parallels, and 27 Club and all that kind of thing. And I could feel I was like, oh God, I've got to go in and ask her about, I don't know, I can't even remember what my questions were. And during the conversation, she was great, but I definitely felt as though she was
preoccupied?
No, not preoccupied, just boundary, just sort of just giving the answers that she felt were appropriate to be in print. And then as soon as I turned the dictaphone off, she said, "Look at that magazine where they do those funny at homes." And then we just walked around the suite doing funny poses.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And the next day her PR said, just a little note from Bette to say that she had a really long day of interviews. She was really tired, but she had a lot of fun with you. And thank you for making it such a joy. And I've now made it look like everyone sends me notes afterwards. They don't, honestly. Some of them thought I was a knob. I got fired. I got fired. I have to say, obviously can't say who it is, but I got fired or like removed from being someone's columnist. People would have to call the magazine every week and say what they had done, and it was really dull. And the editor was like, "We've got to sort this out." And then they were like, "It's Emma's fault. She's not asking good enough questions." So I got removed.
Oh, not that they're just boring.
Yeah.
And particularly after feeling like, oh, these jobs could go, that must have felt a bit weird.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was the sort of Damocles at all times. So, but on the one hand, I don't know if I would have ever been ready for a job that big, because it is a really big job. The only thing I wish is that I just had been allowed myself to enjoy it. Because that's ultimately, like, if you boil it all down, that's what I kind of stopped. I stopped myself. I didn't allow myself to really enjoy it and lean into it, because I was always a little bit scared of enjoying it, in case that meant that someone would be like, right, she's enjoying it too much. Let's get rid of her.
When in fact it's just kind of, you've got to enjoy every day, haven't you? Because it's like you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So when you left OK,
exactly.
what and did you leave of your own accord? Did you decide that was time to move on?
It was one of those, I don't know if do you have this thing where, like, when you can feel something coming to an end, even before the end is in sight, you just feel the energy shift?
Yes, definitely.
So that's happened to you in jobs, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, in lots of different things. And I just instinctively know, and I've given things up and people have gone, "You're mad, what are you doing?" And I just go, "It's done." I just know it's done. And I kind of trust that it's done, and that the next thing will be there. Yeah. So
I had got to the point with that job where it was very clear that it was coming to an end, but it was confusing because I was like, well, I don't quite know how, because I can't leave financially for that reason alone. But it's definitely definitely coming to an end. Like the air feels like, you know, when you can smell rain in the air, you know, the storm's coming. It was like that. And I was whittling away money. I was putting money aside, like, what am I going to do? And I was applying for jobs left, right, and center. And then my friend who I talked about a little while ago, we were there for roughly the same amount of time, left at the same time. She came running up to my desk one day and just grabbed me. You know when someone grabs you on the ribs and you can't help but just squeal? And she just went, I would go upstairs to HR right now. They are offering voluntary redundancy. And if, like, basically I'll race you up the stairs, because we'd both reached that point with it where it was our both of us, it was our dream jobs. And for both of us, we'd given it everything, because I had always been so worried about losing it. I had given it everything, possibly too much, and taken it too seriously. And we hurtled up the stairs to go and say, we'll take voluntary redundancy.
And when you took it, because I know you were saying before about your identity and imposter syndrome and stuff, did you know what you were going to next? Or was it rebuilding yourself, starting again?
No, but again, this is another really interesting thing, because I think, so I left, and I thought that, and I have to say, I did sort of get picked up by friends in the industry, and like opportunities came my way. But what I didn't realize for a little while was you lose yourself. It's a very slow process by which you lose yourself. And you don't realize you've lost yourself until it kind of gets to a point, and then you have to build yourself back up. It's not that you wake up one morning and think, I don't know who I am. It's that you get sort of 6 months down the line and you just think, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what is going on? Like, because you lose all your routine, you lose your purpose when you've got a job like that. I can imagine it would be the same with a divorce or anything where there has been stability, the sameness, and then suddenly you don't have it. Obviously, you know that you don't have it anymore, so you try to adapt, but you don't. I think it's a really slow process. So I can completely understand when people say that when they left jobs or they left relationships or whatever it is, that it took them a while to find themselves. And I did. I had been Emma from OK for 10 years, and I had no idea how to. I would phone up people and I'd say, oh, can I speak to so and so? And they say, who's calling? And I say, it's Emma. And they go, Emma from where? I'd be like, London. Because but as soon as I wasn't Emma from OK, everything did change. So I had to figure out who Emma was without
what your identity is, which is huge, because as I say, when you were saying it earlier about not being sure who you are and where you belong, and then you take that away, you've got to rebuild yourself and work out, okay, well, who am I and where am I going? And that, I think, particularly around sort of 40s, is definitely something where you're almost peeling away these layers that you've put on yourself to get through life. Okay, I'm this, and I'm going to be shiny and happy, and I'm going to be this and that, and then suddenly it's like, okay, but if you take that away, who actually am I? And it's that with the job as well, isn't it? Take that away, right? Who am I going to be? Who do I want to move forward as? And so is that when you started the podcast?
No, so the podcast came 4 years after I left OK. And so in the interim, I did sort of consultancy, I did a bit of writing, and I actually did quite a bit of work on QVC as a guest presenter, which I loved. I absolutely loved it. And actually, the thing about QVC is that when I worked on a magazine, I certainly didn't. It's a very commercial consumer title, ABC One demographic. And I was never actually writing for that demographic, really. I was writing for the advertisers. I was writing for the PRs I wanted to impress. I was writing for the advertising department. And I never really had a dialogue with the audience, if you like, because it was, here, look at this shiny beauty life that I'm living, and here are some products that you might want. And I realized when I was doing QVC, you have to put products into people's hands. If you want people to benefit from them, you have to tell them what the benefits are. You have to tell them what the products are going to do for them, and you have to speak to them like your friends. And so that was a really good lesson, and that sort of then informed the podcast, because I've been listening to loads of American podcasts. I mean, you're podcasters as well, so you know this. Like in America, they're a good 5 years ahead of us in terms of the podcasting space. And I was just listening to loads, and I just thought, I want to do that. And so that's what happened.
That's great. It is kind of a natural progression, isn't it, for a journalist who and the fact that you were sort of constrained by what you were having to write, and then with your podcast, you can say what you like. Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
Obviously, you want to do more long form interviews, and was it sort of to build a community as well, or what were your intentions initially with it?
Do you know what? It's funny you say that, because that would have been a really good thing to write down on a piece of paper. Build a community around conversations with interesting people where the conversation will leave the listener feeling empowered and informed. That was basically what I wanted, but I never sort of set out to, I should have had a bit more of a strategy. It really was about the fact that I've been so lucky in all those 10 years of working at OK that I got to sit in front of people like Bette Midler or brand founders from beauty brands, and you would capture these conversations and they would be much longer than would be in print, and you'd realize that you'd have to cut something out. And I just thought, I really want to just, some of the best conversations I've had with people are those really informal, where you're kind of over a cup of tea or over lunch and you just unguarded chat. I really want to put those on tape. And at the time, no one was really doing that with anyone in the beauty industry, because people only really cared about what the product does, how much it costs, what it looks like. And brand founders weren't what they were now, where obviously we know, like Charlotte Tilbury, you can think about all of these, Lisa Eldridge, you can think of all of these people who are brand owners, but they were brand founders really, when I was in journalism, beauty journalism on magazines, they were very much in the background. And if they turned up at an event, it would be kind of a big deal, but they weren't front of house in the way that they are now. And I really just wanted to put those conversations on tape, because I had really great conversations with people and I really liked them. And there's no blueprint for success in the beauty industry. There's no blueprint for success for coming up with a creative idea and turning it into a legitimate commercial business. I mean, there are obviously strategies and there are things that people might suggest, but there's actually, no one can sit you down and say, this is how you do it. And so that was what I thought was really interesting to capture on tape. And then it moved into, I was struggling with my mental health, coming to terms with the whole, who am I, after OK. And so I started speaking to people on the podcast who had a bit more expertise in that space. I've done a couple of celebrities, although I really wanted not to do celebrity after OK. Although maybe that was a mistake. Sometimes I think, oh God, that would have been quite fun. I just wanted to get away from the sort of tabloidy, that sort of, and get into the more nitty gritty. And I hope that that's what I've done.
But your background with OK and as an actual journalist, that must have helped with getting, guests and approaching people. Because I mean, you do speak to really interesting people and kind of, I look through the list and go, wow, yeah, I know they are. Whatever field it is.
Well, funnily enough, and you're going to think this is really stupid, when I pitch for a guest, I don't say that I used to work at OK Magazine. Never have.
Do you know what? That's lovely, actually, because you must get that feeling of brilliant. Then it's my pitch that landed. It's nothing else. That's what got me through the door. And also referring back to people coming up to you wanting to talk to you because you're Emma from OK Magazine, and that being inauthentic, then you contacting these people, this is my podcast, this is what I do. They're there because they want to work with you based on what you've pitched.
Yeah, I've never had it in my bio. I don't see the point in having my old job in my bio. I've never sort of hung the rest of my career on the fact that I was there. It was great. I had a brilliant time. It was unbelievable experience. And it opened, I think the thing is, I was talking to my family about this the other day. It opened up the world to me in a way that I simply couldn't have imagined. And I just don't think it happens. I feel so lucky because I don't think it happens to many people. 6 weeks into a job and you're at Elton John's house.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like a novel.
Having conversations with Simon Cowell and Barry Manilow and holding on McPherson's bag.
Offering to do Anita Dobson shopping for her forevermore because she was.
Anita Dobson she's my favourite, and she is whatever she wants. I never want to meet her again, although, because if she wasn't as great.
No, we are going to have to let Emma go.
Yes,
Indeed.
Thank you so much for coming. I've loved this. I mean, I could have sat here for another couple of hours. I could have got like a little vodka.
Oh my God, I had the best time.
Oh, I'm so glad.
You like, genuinely, I feel like such a space cadet at the moment, and I didn't know that what I needed to feel human again was this conversation, but this conversation has been the balm that I needed. So thank you so much.
And we are best friends now, right? You are friends with me.
Absolutely. When are we hanging out?
We are the champions.
We've got our first social media roundup of the season.
We
Suze.
have, which is always a treat.
It's always a treat. And we asked you who have been the biggest champions in your life. And we had some lovely responses.
We did. And one of my favourites was from Hayley, who said, you, Esther. That's nice, isn't it?
Nice.
So you owe her that tenner.
I do owe
okay?
her that tenner. Oh, yes. And a drink down the pub.
Oh, yeah, can I come?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, well, Hayley is a massive champion for me as well. So back at you, lady.
Oh, mutual championing. That's what we want, guys.
Yeah, a bit of mutual. I've got one from Jan Mitchell who says, my mum, because as a 50s parent, she went to work to help support our family when most women were stay-at-home mums. Growing up, she also let us know about her college experience, so I was lucky to have a role model who had a career and valued post-secondary education. She was a wonderful mum. Oh, God, she does. She sounds brilliant.
It's amazing to think at that time how she was breaking the mould and how difficult it must have been. I was reading about what kids call their teachers. And the Sir and Miss, I mean, actually, we always called our teachers by their...
Yes.
So it would be Mrs. Smith or whatever. But I know Sir and Miss is the kind of quite common. And of course, there's a lot of status attached to the word Sir, isn't there? It's when you've been knighted. And then Miss is completely the opposite end of the kind of status spectrum. But it was Miss because when women got married, they weren't allowed to work anymore.
No. Which is so sad, isn't it? I remember my gran always, that was her big ambition, was to be a nurse. It was, it was a vocational thing for her. She really wanted to do it. She became a nurse and she was only a nurse for 7 years because she got married at 25. So from 18 to 25, she was a nurse and then she couldn't be one anymore. And it's so sad, isn't it?
It is sad. Think of all that talent neglected.
I've never considered the Sarah missing, but you're so right.
No, I hadn't either. And then it suddenly struck me. But we never did that.
It should be Sir and Dame. Or lady.
Yes.
Dame.
Dame.
Can I go to the toilet, please, Dame?
Your Majesty. Oh, but thank you, Jan, for sending that in. It was a really lovely message to get. And finally here from Bex, who says, my music teacher, Mr. Carter, at my senior school. He gave me the strength and encouragement to perform, and I have been grateful to this day. And I did reply to her, that's really lovely. And she said, yes, and sadly he died a couple of years ago, and I sang at his memorial.
Oh,
gosh, I know, it makes me want to cry. But how lovely, really sort of full circle.
That she could do something for him, that he'd done so much for her.
Yeah, and I've heard her sing, and she is
she?
Very brilliant. So he did a good job.
Oh, yeah, that is full circle, isn't it? And to be able to give something back to him at that last minute after all he'd done for her. Oh, that's lovely.
And it is and nice, again, that it's a teacher. And we've spoken about how important teachers can be. Even sometimes just the slightest word of encouragement can make a massive difference to somebody's life.
Yeah, you twonk. Sorry. The temptation. Oh, the desire to say something naughty is always within me.
I've got a little bonus message for the social media roundup here from Ellie Mackenzie, the gorgeous Ellie Mackenzie from the wonderful Odd Socks Productions, who will be on tour this summer with Julius Caesar. If you haven't seen an Odd Socks Productions show yet, you are missing out. Book tickets immediately. They're going all over the country and it will be brilliant and very, very funny. But Ellie writes a lovely message in response to the question, who is your biggest champion and why? And she says, my mate Jules. She saved my daughter Charlie's life on more than one occasion and has always been there for me. And I've met Jules. She's a doctor. And actually, when I met Jules, I was very, very tired because I had a baby who was about 10 months old, my daughter, and I was so tired. I think I was quite mad, actually. And I remember Jules being so calming and lovely to me. And I'll never forget that. So, Ellie, what a lovely friend you have. And big shout out to Jules. Champion. And if this has made you think of the people that you would like to champion in your life, do keep sending us messages. It's lovely to read them and we'll repost and all that stuff. Thanks so much for getting involved.
You have been listening to Limited Time Only.
Well, Well, that was a delight of an episode.
Wasn't it just? And I think we've got a new best friend in Emma Guns now.
Well, I hope so. That's always my aim for all guests.
Yeah, I mean, we do sound a little bit psychopathic when we say that, though, I think. That's
Do I?
it now. You're our friend forever. You can't escape us, Emma Guns. And
That's
actually,
the only point of me doing a podcast, so I can make friends.
Collect
I mean,
friends.
I am just sitting in my my spare bedroom, so I need friends.
Yeah.
Esther.
Yeah, well, if you keep paying me, I'll stay your friend, so it's fine.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I'll send the next instalment.
And actually, we are going to be guests on the Emma Guns podcast ourselves. We're being interviewed by her this Thursday, which is very exciting.
So yes, goodness knows what's she going to
Yeah,
ask?
what's she going to ask us? But thank you so much to the glorious Emma for coming on. It was just bloody lovely to talk to her. I think I said this on social media the other day. We haven't had a duffer of a guest yet, have we? They've all been brilliant. We've got some brilliant guests lined up for the rest of the series as well. So keep listening. Keep listening.
Yes, and thank you for listening. Thank you to our patrons, as always, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for another episode of
Limited Time
Only. Pick me up in podcast form.
Champion.